Welcome to the Radio Theology podcast with Pastor Darren Earlywine, where you'll hear inspiring stories of people just like you, living out who they were born to be. Here's Pastor Darren.
Welcome back to the Born to Be interview here on the Radio Theology podcast. Your host, Darren Earlywine, with you. And, we've not had a ton of return guests, but when you have a couple who is doing as much globally as Dave and Mary Gothi are doing, you got to have them back because the stories just continue. And so, Dave, Mary, thank you guys so much for being back on the Born to Be podcast.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yes. So last time you guys were here, we talked a little bit, Mary, about your family story, but then we hit on your guys' work over in India with Sunshine Kids and the orphanage you guys are doing and just what's going on globally. But here locally, stateside, and we're actually doing it globally, but it's impacted, my local community a little bit more, is what you guys are doing with the Significant Marriage Workshop Seminar, that for short, TSM. So throughout the time, I'm sure we'll just keep saying TSM, which stands for the Significant Marriage. And the journey that brought you guys here is intriguing. The lives that are being changed is inspiring. What I want to do today on the Born to Be podcast is what I want to do today on the Born to Be interview on the Radio Theology podcast is just get into the story of why you guys created, why it's needed. I mean, just kind of the 411 on it, because in my life as a pastor, I'm amazed at how many couples move into a marriage relationship without really any work, any training, any thoughts. I think maybe we should make it, a mandatory thing nationwide for pre-engagement counseling, right?
Yeah.
Before you buy a ring and really think things are going and find a dress you like really figure out if this is going to work out, and not just if it's going to work out, but also what purpose God may have brought you two together for. So let's unpack some of that. So glad you guys are back. But what is TSM? Why does it exist? Let's dig in.
The way we started this was probably 6 months after Mary and I got married. So we moved to Massachusetts, and she's a psychotherapist. I'm an engineer. We get there 6 months into our marriage. Mary looks at me one day and says, "Dave, we ought to do something together. Go to engineering school. We'll start an engineering firm."
That was not going to happen.
Didn't work. After another couple months, I said, "All right, what are you thinking about?" And she goes, "Well, maybe we can work with couples." I go, "Mary, I'm an engineer. I think God may put me into your life so that I can support you." She's always been on mission all her life. So I'm good with that. I will support you financially, whatever it takes. I think that's what God put me into your life. Well, she never gave up again. And she said, need to do something. I said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "Let's work with some couples. Bring some couples from our church at our house. We'll read some books and talk about it." I said, "I can do that."
Yeah, seems simple.
No problem, right? That now has brought me to this point because what that led to is the fact that after we moved to California, there we started working with another company called Marriage Dynamics Institute out of Nashville, and we do a weekend workshop for couples that are in serious crisis. But because of the fact that we were doing that, we said, we need to do something preventative so that couples don't get to that point. That's when Mary started writing TSM, and now we've been doing TSM for the last 8 years all over the world.
So, Mary, you guys, you saw that need. You guys were working with couples in crisis. As a pastor, I get a chance to do a handful of weddings a year. Usually do premarital counseling with couples. And one of the last things I say to a couple when I work with them is I say, "Hey, don't make the next time I get a phone call from you, one of you is saying I'm moving out.
Right.
I am here. I'll try to help. Continue to work on and invest in your marriage." Yeah. And I know that's the heart behind why you guys started TSM, but I still find most couples, even presented with the opportunity of, "Hey, here's a marriage seminar that helps you understand how to, why God put you together as a couple and how to leverage that for greatness in your life and how your marriage can be significant." They go, "Well, we're not having a big crisis right now. Why do we need help?" Are you guys, is that still a stigma that you guys come up against?
I think it is. I think people feel like, well, if we go to marriage seminar, then our friends will think there's something wrong with us. And so just encouraging people that it's education. Like one of Dave's soapboxes is you get more education to be an engineer or even a plumber than you do for your marriage. And it's the most important decision you will make in your life. And people just assume I'm in love. It will always be this way. But those of us that are married know that you choose to love on a daily basis. And marriage can become hard work because we're different people.
Yeah.
not that people are wrong, it's just that they're different, and putting those differences together can become a real challenge. So we wanted to give couples as many tools as possible, which is why we created the Significant Marriage, to give them those tools. And when I was writing it, it was more just to help couples protect their marriage. And we create it in such a way, which we can talk about in a minute, because that was really Dave's baby, so that you walk away with plans. That's one of the things that makes TSM different. But when I was writing it, God really changed the message of our heart, that it wasn't just about protecting your marriage so that it would be strong and happy. It was about protecting your marriage so that you could go out as a couple and make a difference in the world. And for every couple, that's different.
Yeah.
And so it changed from being the intentional marriage to being the significant marriage, one that changes the world.
Wow. And what I noticed when you guys talking about that is just the fact that the process of constructing the workshop gleaned and it was built so much on the strengths and which God's created and brought both you guys as far as career path, like the mind of an engineer and the heart and the understanding of a psychotherapist.
Yeah, I've always thought that we should write a book called The Engineer and the Therapist. Enough said.
I think it'd sell.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you have both been talking about, the fact that couples don't think they need it. I always say we make two very important decisions in our life. One is, what's my job going to be, and what am I going to do to be prepared for it?
Right.
And the other is to get married. And we spend an inordinate amount getting prepared to do the job that we're wanting to do. On the other hand, we get married and we say, don't need it. Maybe 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
We don't invest in it. And then when we're working with couples that are pre-married or doing some premarital coaching, we give them some statistics to start out with. And the marital statistics today are really sad. And there's probably about 50% divorces, another 20% or 25% that are living unhappily together. And that means there are maybe 25% that are mutually fulfilled. So when you do the math, a couple has a much better chance statistically to get divorced than to stay together.
Yeah.
Or at least being unhappy.
Right. Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do everything that you can to make sure your marriage is strong? We have quite a few couples right now that we're doing premarital coaching with, and it's so much fun to get in at the beginning in a relationship and have the chance to give them a tool so they don't end up having the problems that most couples have in the first place, because they've learned how to communicate more lovingly. They've learned how to understand each other's personality differences, and they've learned how to focus on the good. The very first lesson that we do is, what does it mean to focus on the good in your spouse? To live by Philippians 4. Just seeing what's still excellent and praiseworthy in your spouse, even when they're driving you crazy. Trusting that if you choose to think the right way about your spouse, then God brings peace to your heart. So when you give a young couple that information, then when they go through difficult times, they've got that playing in their head, okay, God, help me to focus on what's still good and right and true about this person that I love.
Wow.
So your heart doesn't go to a dark place. It stays where it should, even though you might be working through some difficult things.
Yeah. So you guys teach TSM across the globe. Talk to me about, are some of these principles, are they global principles? Do they work in Austria? They work in Germany? They work in California? They work in Indiana?
They work everywhere and for every single culture out there. We have, how many cultures have we done, babe?
Well, I actually made a list because I was so curious about it. We've had over 61 different nationalities come to TSM.
Get out.
Seriously. And,
wow.
And so I would have totally expected that that we'd get a lot of pushback, especially from certain kinds of cultures. And it's been amazing to me how much positive response we've gotten, especially from husbands who are in a culture where they have never had any kind of marriage education, nor have they been encouraged to honor their wife, and they have loved it. The only way I can explain it, Darren, is that I feel like God just wrote TSM. He put in it what was going to be acceptable to all cultures and even all faiths, because we've held it for Catholics, for Hindus, for Muslims, for any, across the board denominations, from charismatic to Presbyterian. And people receive it because it just makes sense to them. And we feel like God just speaks to their hearts, what they need to hear, no matter what faith background they're from or what nationality they might be.
And some of that for you guys, it's you're not using the seminar as a way to, to necessarily plot one worldview or religion against the other. It's more about how do we understand to love one another and live at peace and enjoy with each other.
Yeah, so TSM is biblically based. But when we teach those principles, right, along with some psychological truths, no one can refute it. Everyone says, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We did a 4-hour seminar in India with, I don't know how many couples, and most of them were all Muslims. During the seminar, one of the things we talk about is flooding, where someone can get angry really, really quickly. And I looked at the group and I said, I tend to do that. That's part of me.
Because it's biological.
It's biological. So I asked, is there anyone here that does that? So one woman looks at her husband, points to her and says, this man floods all day and night. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
But he just smiled and he said, yeah, I do. And I need to learn how to do things differently.
Yeah.
And he came back and promoted TSM for us for the next time.
They loved it. And so that always surprises me when people from another culture hear these truths and they receive it. Somehow God just makes it okay in their hearts, even though it's different from anything they've ever heard before.
Yeah.
Like we had one husband say to us, this was several years ago in India, he was like, you mean that I'm really supposed to take care of my wife's needs? He had no idea what that even meant. So that was life-changing for them.
Yeah.
And we have another couple that we mentor in India. They're a Muslim couple, and his name is Saiba. And just hearing one lesson from TSM, he asked us to meet with them. And just hearing one lesson so changed his life that he literally changed the career course of his life so he could spend more time with his family.
Wow.
And we watched God really honor that decision.
Yeah.
And now he's on a mission that everybody in his neighborhood, all of his family, all of his friends would come to TSM and learn how to have a loving marriage. And our hearts are that it'll go beyond that, but that they really understand that God wants to change their lives and then use them to change the world.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And the way we work around the world is we love working with churches all across the world so that we can help them develop a marriage ministry if they don't have one.
Yeah.
But when we go to any country, we always let the pastors know that we're willing to spend time with any couple while we're there. So we'll be there for about a week, and we will make ourselves available to any couple that wants to sit and talk to us. And we do that all the time.
Yeah.
And then we stay in touch with those couples a lot of times through FaceTime. Thank God for FaceTime.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We just can talk to couples all over the world. When somebody comes to us for either premarital coaching or counseling, one of the first things we say to them is, we would love to. We just ask that you be willing to be flexible with our crazy schedule because we might be in a totally different time zone, and sometimes it's a challenge to work things out. But it opens up the world for us, so it's good.
So the next one coming up here stateside is going to be October. What's the dates for that? October?
It's the very last weekend of October, and it's at Mercy Road Church.
And Mercy Road Church is it's at 116th and Keystone up on the north side of Indianapolis. Mary, Dave, one thing I want you guys to unpack is you've got some new focuses that you're bringing to TSM as well, and talk about some of the new things that you're bringing online right now with the course.
As a psychotherapist, I have been counseling people for decades, and we end up having couples come to us who want counseling. But we've realized that maybe one of the most effective things we could do, and this was Dave's idea, is tailor TSM to be more of a smaller, private kind of weekend where we work with couples who are hurting. We lost count of how many couples told us they've come to TSM, and unbeknownst to us, they were really in crisis. And it turned their marriage around because it gave them the tools that they were missing, a safe environment to talk about them, and then the chance to realize, hey, this is more than just about us. This is bigger than us. It gives us something to hope for and to work toward. And so we know that it's effective for couples that are hurting, but we think that it might be even more effective if we knew ahead of time that there were, 4 or 5 couples that were really hurting that would want to meet together for a weekend with the purpose of let's heal our marriage and then get set on mission. So we're hoping by the end of the year to have that kind of in place as to what that's going to look like.
It's huge. It's huge. Because I think a lot of times, like we talked about earlier in this interview, is just that the stigma behind, we don't go if we're not in crisis. But if you are in crisis, there's nowhere better to go
Right.
But I would say, people say, well, we don't really have problems. It's like, well, you do. You just don't know it probably, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a constant state of flux between, hurting each other and the brokenness we're going through, and as God's, developing us. So, everyone has room to grow in that. But I love that you guys are focusing on meeting that need. And one of the things that I think is unique that you guys bring out is it's not just how to communicate, not just how to, affirm, which you guys do give people some great tools, but the fact that people walk away with a plan of how are we going to make a significant impact together. Mm-hmm. Talk about that for a minute, and why that it's more than just here's how to be loving. It's here's how to be on mission. Here's how to actually be purposeful about why God brought you together.
Just what we've done ourselves with working with couples for all these years. We've been married for almost 24 years, and for 23 of those years, we've in some way really ministered to couples. And many of those couples are now a part of our leadership team. We have about 35 couples around the world that help us with TSM, and because they've just seen the benefit of marriage ministry and involvement. We felt like what we were doing together and then what we've done with our orphanage ministry in India has so bonded us that we wanted that for other people. And because it gives you something that you're doing together, you're making a difference, and it just grows you closer. You can't not grow closer when you're serving the Lord together. So we wanted to set people on mission and really help them understand that God has a unique purpose for them. Les and Leslie Parrott out of Seattle were involved in another marriage endeavor with us, and we all left that at the same time and stayed in touch with each other. Les was just finishing his book, Love Styles, when I was writing TSM, and so they gave their love styles to us to use. So we do personality training the first night, which is always life-giving to a couple to understand, oh, you mean you're not crazy because you're different, but you're actually good for me? It's a total shift in thinking. But it is literally life-giving. But they say that God has put you together and you're inimitable, which means you're impossible to copy. That's how special and precious you are to God. Your marriage is so unique, just the two of you, there's no one else like you. And how amazing it is that God thinks that highly of us as a couple and wants to use each of us as couples to change his world. We are inimitable.
Yeah.
And he wants to do extraordinary things through us. Max Lucado says that God wants to take ordinary people and do extraordinary things through them. And so how awesome is that God sees us as capable of doing extraordinary things for him.
Absolutely.
So we love setting couples on mission.
Yeah.
Whether they're pre-married, whether they're dating seriously, because we have some couples come to try to figure out, is this what God wants for us?
Yeah.
Or they've been married 40 years and they come to TSM and they're like, oh
and
my
retired.
gosh, God. Yeah, we love it when retired couples come, because then they have a chance to find out now you have a new purpose.
Yeah. You
have different timing and freedom. But it's really such a privilege to set couples on mission. So I'll let Dave tell the planning part, because he loves Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I hate them. And so we're a good mix.
Well, I think it's so key, right? Because you can say the things you've said that are true, and somebody can go, totally agree with everything Mary just said. How the heck do I do any of that? Like, what are the practical ways it happens? So, Dave, that's where you come in.
Yeah. So not only the fact of how to, but also so that you don't forget what you've done.
Yeah.
We've all been to seminars, right? And we come out pumped up and everything, and 2 months later, guess what? It's gone.
Yeah.
So we wanted to prevent that from happening. So we've developed a planning tool. It's very simple, but it allows you to plan for your top priorities, how to make your marriage all it can be, and you'll plan for at least 2 or 3 priorities before you leave the seminar.
And those are those things that you've learned from the tools we've taught. Oh, we really need to grow in the area of praying together, or our finances, or maybe just how we talk to each other. You pick out those things that are going to make a difference for you.
And then you also end up planning for whatever your purpose might be. Once we take couples through a particular process that helps them figure out what their purpose might be. Once they figure that out, then they develop plans in terms of how can they make that really happen.
Yeah.
So that they can be successful.
And then it's not just a dream. It's down in black and white. And we talked, too, about they also make a plan. So they walk away with 3 Excel spreadsheets. Yay. But one of them is, what are your dreams as a couple? What are your dreams as individuals? You want to have a baby. You want to have a new job. Want to move somewhere. We often have couples who have come to a new beginning who are really bitter because they have never seen their dreams come true. And so we feel like it's important to honor your spouse's dreams, for each of you as individuals and then for you as a couple, So you walk away with plans for that. I don't love Excel spreadsheets, but I have to say after being married to Dave, I understand that it's important to plan.
Yeah.
And to see it in black and white. These are the steps that we need to take.
Yeah.
This is the help we need to get. This is the accountability that we need to have to make this happen. And you may not be able to see your purpose fulfilled right now. I mean, it took us years to get where we are.
Yeah.
God didn't just out of the gate say, okay, you're going to lead a marriage ministry. You know, he took years growing his purposes in us.
Yeah.
All he asks is that we're available, that we would be willing to do whatever it is he calls us to do. And so it may take time for you to fulfill that purpose, but as long as you've got a plan and you're working toward it, then it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think about the fact that, you know, it's been, I don't know who said it first, but tons of people have said it, is that, you know, hope's not a plan. You know, I hope we put these things into, and I hope we have a great marriage. Well, I hope you do too. Yeah. You know, but if you don't have a plan,
That's perfect.
You know, that puts it in front of you and that you can go after. I think it's so key because, you know, and I think even just some of the fact that maybe you're listening right now and you're like, man, I want this. We need this. You know, get to Indiana, you know, for October 25th and 27th through the 27th, or get on the significantmarriage.com or org.
Yeah. There's an online course you can take.
Yeah, and you know, or if you're around the world, find out when they're going to come to your neck of the globe, because I just think so often, I know in my own marriage, I'm getting ready on Sunday, I'm going to celebrate 18 years of marriage, and they've mostly been awesome, but I tend to make life difficult for my wife. She's a saint, I'm not, and 3 kids, you know, and youth travel sports and everything. I mean, we're coming out of you know, baseball season, where the past 3 months I have been married to my wife, and we live in the same home sometimes because of the travels of our past 3 months. And it's like, how many times have we had I mean, just the significant conversations that you're leading couples to have. Like, praise God, my kids go to school next Wednesday, so we can have some kind of like life will have rhythm again, and I can speak to my wife, you know. But I think it's just, it's so important just to bring the intentionality that you guys are bringing. What about that, guys? About kids? What are maybe some stories? I'm just thinking about, you know, a couple that have come through TSM and maybe the impact it made as their marriage grew in health and strength and in purpose, the way that's impacted the actual family unit. I mean, can you think of anything that jumps out from there? Well,
I know that just even part of what we teach is that one reason that you need to be living on purpose is that you have no idea how that's going to impact your generations to come. You won't even see necessarily the legacy. Yeah. But when you're living on mission with your kids, then your kids will live on mission. Yeah. We love it when families come to India with us and they bring their kids, because they get to see a different world. They get to see kids in need, and just to recognize, you know what, it doesn't matter what your gifts are, Jesus wants to use you for good. Yeah. And you can have an impact just by loving a kid and playing soccer with them. So when you model that to your children, that you are living on mission, they will grow up knowing that. Yeah. And wanting to be on mission.
Yeah. And just knowing how to be married and married well. It changes what the kids see every day. Yeah. I mean, today, kids are seeing 50% divorce, right? Which means there are so many kids that are seeing what they really shouldn't be seeing. Our goal is we want to turn that around. It makes such a huge difference. I have a message for all the parents out there. We're actually just started coaching a young couple who's premarital. They're going to get married in about 2 or 3 months. And we started theirs because her mother paid for them to come to us.
She wanted to give them that as a wedding gift.
So my message to all the parents out there is, give your children this kind of a gift that's going to be permanent for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Send them and pay for their marriage coaching somewhere.
Come to the seminar,
whether it's anywhere. TSM or not, we think TSM's the best, but hey, it doesn't matter where you go. But get something. Yeah. You know?
There are so many amazing resources that are out there. You just need to seek them out and be the best that you can be as a couple, because then you're free. Yeah. You're not bogged down with conflict and pain and sadness. Your energy goes toward loving each other and your kids well, and then that just splashes out to all the people that are in your sphere.
Yeah. I love that you guys are the way you're saying it is, you know, premarital coaching. And when I work with couples, one of the first things I said, find out how long it is between, us starting the coaching and when they're going to get married. And I said, imagine if I just told you right now that, the Indianapolis Colts or the Chicago Cubs or some pro team was like, hey, on that date, you're going to start playing pro sports. I'm like, how many of you between now and then would scoff at if I told you you're probably going to need to get some coaching to get ready for your professional career? And how many of you, after you started playing pro sports, would go, oh, man, I don't need a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you look at the a sports team, they have coaches for every single element of the game, for every single position of each. And so it's like the reality that's for a game. We're talking about the most precious relationship you have outside of your relationship with God that's going to affect your joy, your career, your children, your grandchildren,
everything.
And to take that kind of understanding to invest in that kind of coaching. And I love what you guys have put together. I love what you're creating that's going to happen here in the next year, and just as you guys continue to grow into it. So October 25th to the 27th here in Carmel at Mercy Road Church. And what's the cost to go through TSM?
It's $179 at Mercy Road, I think.
$179 a couple.
Yeah.
Very, very, very doable. This may sound harsh, but I tell people that's a lot less. That's a lot cheaper than divorce.
Yeah,
you know
we
what I
say
mean?
that too. You're right.
And so, but go check it out. The Significant Marriage, all one word.com is where you can get more information. If they want to follow you guys, are you on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff as well?
We're on Instagram, but they can just check out the website, and we would love to talk to them if they have questions. We are heading to Europe.
Wonderful.
So I will post pictures and stuff about that.
Do it.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, I know we have some listeners of the podcast. We have one, I think, in South Africa, and I think we have one in Australia. I don't know how many people in Europe we have, but if you're over in Europe and you want to check out TSM, you can check out their website. Dates will be on that. But
coming to Australia in May.
Guys, thank you so much for being back on the podcast. I love what you guys are doing, not just here in Indianapolis and in the States, but all over the globe. TSM, it's worth the investment. Make it happen. TheSignificantMarriage.com. Go check it out today.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Radio Theology Podcast. We'd love for you to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with a friend. Talk to you next time, but until then, don't forget, God is for you, not against you. He is near to you, not far away from you, and He has created you on purpose and for a purpose. Have a great day.